Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my podcast. My name is Lynette. Today we're going to talk about there being levels to this world that you haven't experienced yet. It's interesting to think that there's something beyond your existence right now, that there's something beyond where you are right now. And as we go through life, as we experience things, and as we trust God, we walk at a higher level. And it kind of falls into that old saying, you don't know how someone feels, so you walk in their shoes. Because you have not yet walked in this, and you have not yet experienced it, it's hard to imagine that there's a level beyond where you are right now. And when you reach this level, you will look the same, but there will be a subtle change in who you are. What used to seem so important won't seem so important. What people say about you won't matter so much because you have this confidence, this inner knowing that what people say is only just that. It's what people say. But what does change is the way you think about things or lack of. Because when we're at a lower level, we tend to overthink. Things seem to bother us more. But when you're at a higher level, you see things more clearly. So all those little things don't bother you so much. Personally, I didn't even know there was another level. Until, honestly, I'm going to be candid with you. I don't know if it was the pandemic or my health. I had to stay home more. I had to face myself more. And I haven't fully developed where I am living at this level 24/7. But I've had enough glimpses in it that I can tell you and I can share with you that there is another level. So where you're living right now and you think this is it, this is my life, this is where I'm at. No, that is not true. There is another level to walk in. And those of you that will take the walk, that have done the work, that have worked on being your true self, being your best self, will get there. There will be those that never get there because they're contented just where they are. They're contented living status quo as it is, day by day. But those of you that are putting the work in will reach this next level without a doubt that there is another level. In fact, some of you may be ahead of me. Maybe some of you are experiencing the other level. But I never dreamed that there could be. That life as we know it now is not the top. In fact, we talked earlier in another episode about the world being broader when you start walking in your best life, being the best that you can be. You see the world in a more broader, it seems smaller, but yet broader because you can see more of it. I don't believe we are just here as a living being to fill a small gap in this world as we are. I believe our purpose is to be our true self, be our best self, and fill the world in a positive way. And when you're living at this higher level, you are more connected to God. And to be honest with you, if you are not connected to God, I don't know if you can live at this higher level because it's through my relationship, my trust with Him. And I'm going to go back a bit. I've shared with you my health concerns. And if I didn't have a God to believe in, it would be like, what's the point? But with God, there is always hope. And so circumstances that bring you closer to Him, regardless of what they are, will make you walk this walk in full trust. And honestly, regardless of what you're going through, whether it's physical problems or broken heart, whatever the situation is, I think the stronger we can build our trust and our faith, then whatever it is starts to heal. And again, at this higher level, what was so devastating to us doesn't seem to matter as much. Have you ever noticed in life you want something, you feel like it's going to change your world, it's going to be earth-shaking if you get it. But as time goes on and you look back and you say, wow, I don't even have an interest in that anymore. That's kind of what getting to the other level feels like. And so again, there's that book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. I think that's what they mean by it's all small stuff, because the things that were so important and so all-consuming of your thoughts, causing you worry, seem less and less significant as you grow, as you develop into being your best self, into being the person that you were meant to be your true self. I think all the minor things become insignificant. And by saying minor, there was a time when those things were major to us, but then they become minor. And that's all part of living at this next level. And again, I think it starts to develop when you make a conscious effort to be your true self, to be your best self, to be the person that you were meant to be. You start to walk with one foot in front of the other, reaching that higher level. And then there's those, and I'm not condemning anybody, whatever anyone chooses to do with their life is okay. But there are those that are just status quo. They stay right where they're at. They're contented in being who they are, existing how they are, which is fine. But personally, I think our goal should be to reach a higher and higher level, to be the best that we can be, to see life at its fullest, to be connected to the world. What an amazing thing to be connected to the whole world, to know your spirit is reaching out. And I also think that comes with that is a level of success. And how you measure success, there are many different ways, but I believe when you have that mental feeling that you can reach out into the whole world, that it sets you apart and it sets you up for true success, for living your best life, for seeing the world in a whole new way and not worrying so much about the little things that this life brings. But then when you grow a bit and you look back and you say, why did I worry about that? You realize it really is a waste of time. But you can't help it how you feel. If you feel it, you feel it. But what I'm saying, as you grow, you don't feel it as much or at all. And sometimes it might be a little bit difficult to relate to other people that are not walking the same path you are. People who are not walking in your path don't really understand where you're at. I don't know that for sure, but I can't see how they would understand. Again, it's if you haven't experienced something, you don't know what it's like. You can't really talk from experience or feel what something is like if you haven't yet experienced it. Again, I'm going to talk about myself, being in a wheelchair right now. I used to see people in wheelchairs and I'd say to myself, oh, please get up, come on. And then it happened to me. So now I know Unfortunately, I learned that it's not as easy as, oh, come on, get up. I realize that now, and I am more sympathetic to those that are struggling. In fact, I'm very sympathetic. But at the same time, I know that God could heal me in a blink of an eye. And I believe that as I develop and as I reach my higher levels, my tissues and cells will respond to the new way that I am living, that I'm feeling, that I'm thinking. Because I've always believed that stress affects you physically and mentally, of course. But as you eliminate that stress, when you reach this higher level and those little things aren't so important, that you have the freedom for your body and your tissues and your mind to start to heal. Not only start to heal, to fully heal. And I believe as you reach this higher level, you will start to flourish in every way, monetarily, career-wise, but just enjoying life when you're not doing anything. Like I have friends that say, what are you doing? What have you been up to? And I feel like I have to say something significant. You know, nobody wants to hear, well, I sat around and watched TV all day. But the truth is, when you're feeling this way, everything seems elevated. You don't need to be doing earth-shaking things because the peace, the happiness, the enjoyment, the way you feel on the inside is what matters. So when somebody says, how are you, or what have you been doing, it's like you can't explain it. You just can't. I don't know if it would work to say, I'm just sitting here feeling happy. I don't know if that's a good answer, but it doesn't matter what anybody else says or thinks. The other thing is, I think our duty in this life, that our responsibility in this life is to be kind, be at peace, be a humanitarian. I think at any level in life, our responsibility is to spread joy, spread peace, spread everything that's positive. It's got to start with someone. But the point is, when you do all the work for yourself and you start walking at a different level and you start seeing things differently, and you've actually opened up to walking in this higher frequency, then you are being your best self. You are being your true self. And it's interesting and difficult at the same time to wrap your head around what we see, what we know right now is not the end. There is a step up. There is a step up in living a better quality of life. And it's so interesting to even imagine that, even feel it, to wrap your brain around that. But it's true. And I think our goal should always be to be our best self. But all this time, all these episodes, when I've been talking to you about being your best self, being your true self, realizing that what we see, what we feel, what we live right now is not as good as it gets. It gets better. I know some of this might be hard to understand, but there is higher levels in life. So get excited. Get excited for your walk. And it doesn't stop with just making the physical changes. It keeps going until you're walking at a higher level. Get very excited because this isn't as good as it gets. It can get much, much better. So with that being said, again, I urge you to get excited, to know that there's more than what you're seeing, what you're feeling right now. And with it comes more peace, more love, more understanding. In fact, I'm going to make an episode in a week or two about knowing a man by his works. That involves what we're talking about. It's like in this life, it doesn't matter what and who people say they are, but you know who they are by how they carry themselves, how they treat others. It doesn't matter what icons they have on. You see it in the person. I will cover that in 2 or 3 weeks. But in the meantime, I'm so excited that there's a different level, a different way to live, a higher way to live. And again, I think it comes with a certain responsibility. But I also believe that that responsibility will come naturally. Because if you walk at this different level, I think humanity, love, peace, all of that will come into play. With that being said, again, I want you to get excited for this next level. God bless you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.